think about your computer, imagine you're there playing some 3D video game. You're wandering around this virtual universe, and that world that it's created there, it has laws of physics, and it has its own space and its own time. And if you think about it, well, that's a bit of an illusion. There's not actually a world behind your computer screen. And if you ask, well, what's like the real, what's actually going on in that universe? What's real there? Well, you might say, oh, well, it's actually there's some computer chip, there's some memory chip somewhere in your computer, and there you've got little electronic bits that can be on or off, and those are going on and off and on and off in some particular way, based on the hardware and the software in your computer, and that's encoding the 3D universe. So to your question, it basically like if you were a character, you'd be an artificial intelligent character in one of these 3D video games, and you're having a conversation with another character in the virtual world, and you ask, and they say, a world of hologram. It's actually the real stuff is on this thing called a memory chip, and the person asks, well, where is that memory chip? And so from their point of view, it is really anywhere in their universe. It's in their universe. It's the thing that's encoding their universe, and that's exactly how you're supposed to think of the hologram in this holographic description, if that's the right description of space, time, and gravity.
I have a good comment question for that from Consumer Corona, who asks, what is the proper way to verify the hologram?
Okay, yeah, so that's a really challenging question. So those of us that work in the field of quantum gravity and think about things like the holographic principle, one of the biggest challenges is it's actually really hard to come up with experiments that test these things. And it has to do with the fact that gravity is normally a phenomenon that is relevant for very large scale physics, and it normally doesn't have much to do, it's normally not very relevant at the microscopic level where you need quantum mechanics. And so the places where your fundamental description of gravity would be relevant, or quantum description of gravity would be relevant, are places they're kind of extreme. So if you think about the inside of a black hole where matter becomes infinitely dense according to Einstein's theory, or the Big Bang, where again if you turn back the clock, it becomes denser and denser. So these kind of situations, which are obviously very hard to prove with experiments, you have a situation where everything is so dense that gravitational forces would be relevant even at these atomic scales. And so how are we going to so your model of quantum gravity being important, how gravity fits together with quantum mechanics. So the important point is that you first describe this holographic to quantum gravity or some other way. But how are you going to test that? You can't go back to the Big Bang. It's trying to go inside a black hole. But the hope for many of us is that maybe some indirect way that we can certainly observe the sky and see some leftover signatures of what happened in the Big Bang. You can see this cosmic microwave radiation that's filling the universe. That has some imprints about what happened early on in the universe. Another thing to look at is just that if you do look out at our whole universe, there are some weird things that we don't know how to explain. So dark energy would be one of them. Apparently our universe is not only expanding, it's accelerating. Nobody knows why that is. And so I think for me and for other people, the hope is, well, when we understand, suppose that we understood quantum gravity well enough, maybe using this holographic picture, maybe that would ultimately tell you that something like accelerated expansion of the universe is a very natural thing. Maybe it would make a more detailed prediction for how that accelerated expansion looks. So it's kind of in these types of observations that we might find at least some indirect evidence for something like a holographic picture.
And I think Knowledge Army 17 has a good follow-up to that. What is something you would like to see in the near future or maybe in your lifetime?
Let's see, at a research level, I mean, in terms of things that I'd be really happy about to see develop, in the next decade or certainly hopefully in my lifetime, it really would be that connection with between these ideas of quantum gravity and the physics of cosmology. So with the current situation is that these models of quantum gravity that go under the title of holography, so those are really the best understood models of quantum gravity, and we can study these models and ask lots of interesting questions about how gravity works in that context. But so far they're not yet able to describe the kinds of universes that we actually live in. So in terms of the fact that we're in an expanding, accelerating universe that started with a Big Bang, so far that kind of a scenario is actually quite difficult for these holographic models. And they're better at asking questions about smaller scale dynamics, about black holes, and what is the physics of black holes, or things that happen on not the entire universe scale, but rather smaller scales. So I think that would be something just personally that I would love to see that we and I and other people are certainly working on that, trying to get first of all some complete model of quantum gravity that can deal with cosmological spacetimes, and then see are there interesting predictions that we can make, and can we connect with some experimental observations.
Well, I think we're all hoping that you succeed on that one. So RCS 300 asks, how do quantum particles become entangled, both naturally and the way that humans do it in experiments? Sure.
So it's normally a question of so naturally it's often a question of what are the least energetic configurations. So sometimes a simple physical system that you have, it's one of the first things that people learn about when they're dealing with quantum mechanics would be a hydrogen atom, where you have a system of two parts. You've got a proton and you've got an electron. And an interesting thing about that system is that the proton has a spin. It's just like a quantum kind of rotation that it has to it with a direction and an axis. And the electron also has a spin. And so if you think about a hydrogen atom, then it turns out that the very lowest energy configuration of a hydrogen atom is a configuration where the spin of the proton is entangled with the spin of an electron in a particular way. If the proton spin is pointing one way, the electron spin is pointing the other way. And so the lowest energy configuration is some combination of like this plus that, or minus that. There's sort of mathematical difference whether it's plus or minus. So just like out in the universe where you've got a lot of hydrogen, then if you were to think of, okay, lower the temperature so that the hydrogen has the least possible energy, then you're just going to end up with a lot of hydrogen in that entangled configuration. And that's also how it happens like in more complicated systems. If you have a a chunk of diamond or something, then again, exactly what state things are in, it often has to do with just energetics. There are some states that are very high energy states. To get to those, you would need to heat up this diamond a lot. If your system happened to be very cold, then you would only have access to low energy states. And for some physical systems, these low energy states tends to be ones that are that have a certain pattern of entanglement between the different components of the system. Now, in quantum computers, then we need to manipulate the entanglement of different systems. And so the way that we can do that is basically just interact with the system in some way. So you might have a system with a couple of atoms in there, and if those atoms have a spin, then say typically that spin would respond to something like a magnetic field. And so if you expose these atoms to particular kinds of magnetic fields, maybe you just expose one to a certain magnetic field, you expose the other, you expose them both. So you can do that, and just by exactly what you do to the system, how you control its environment, then you can actually manipulate and put atomic systems into particular states. And so that's how you might entangle it in practice if you wanted to do that.
And we talked about how entangled particles affect each other instantaneously. So Dave Clark asks, other than mystical universes, what are the popular theories of how entangled particles communicate across these distances faster than the speed of light?
Yeah, so it's in its usual sense where you could send a signal, so where I could communicate with you, say the answer to a question, but the standard thing would be, so say you have these two particles that are not far apart, but their spins are entangled, so they're up, down, plus down, up configuration, and then someone measures over here, and you find it down, well then the other person over here is guaranteed to find the spin up, even though there wouldn't have been enough time for a signal to get from one place to the other. So it's kind of important to distinguish that, where this person has no control over whether they're going to find up or down, and this person has no control over, this person will find up if the other person finds down, but you can send a signal that way. So that's a thing, that's fairly, it's just basic to the description of these sorts of systems. So it has to do with just the way that you mathematically describe the state of particles that have gone apart from each other like that and happen to be entangled. That's kind of part of your initial configuration. So in some way of thinking about it, it's just that you set up the system in this entangled way, and then that's just the implication in quantum mechanics about what would happen if you measure a system like that. So it's not really, I would say it's just quantum mechanics itself that is giving rise to those sort of predictions rather than some particular extra theory that you need to explain it.
And our viewer, Latchif asks, so if we could teach AI or robots everything we know, would they be able to just do all this research and math about quantum physics and figure everything out for us?
Well, good question. I think nobody knows what the limits of AI are. As far as I know, I guess to me that seems far-fetched. But of course, people thought it was far-fetched for computers to beat humans at chess and go. I think it's a little bit different thinking about research in that there aren't so much rules in terms of making progress in research. So there are some problems that I could imagine AI being very helpful with. If you have a very well-defined problem, like say there's a game and you're interested in is there a winning strategy for this game? So that's something where a human could think about that problem, possibly solve it. I could also imagine that a computer could given the rules of the game, could solve it, or in the case of Go, that know if there's a winning strategy that a computer can do better than the humans. But I think in research, the hardest part of research is trying to just think of the right questions to ask. So even if you had a really super intelligent computer that was going to help you out in the research, and you have to ask it the right questions, there's still that process of exactly what questions are you going to ask, and they have to be precise enough that you could maybe test the question by doing some calculation within a model, but still general enough that you're interested in the answer. So I guess that part of the research, which I think involves a lot of creativity, thinking of what are the right questions and maybe making connections between different parts of physics. I don't really see that going over to AI robots anytime soon. But I don't have a good sense myself of what the limits of artificial intelligence would be.
And we've got another kind of forward-looking question here from a non-user. So is there a path forward to instantaneous communication using entangled matter? And could we, for example, use it to speak in real time if people ever settle on Mars? Could we talk to them instantaneously?
Yeah, again, so this idea of things happening faster than light, it's not something that you can use to communicate. So again, it's something that it's like me rolling a dice here on Earth, and then someone on Mars is rolling a dice, and somehow it'd be like we're guaranteed to get the same dice roll. But if I wanted to then send a message to that person using my dice, there's no way I could do it because I can't. The die is totally random, and so I can't get a 3 if I want to get a 3D. It's just that okay, I roll the 3, and then the other person is guaranteed then to roll a 3. If our dice were entangled with each other, that would be what happens. So it's not a useful thing in that way in terms of communication.
Thanks, Mike. So we've got a question from Kim Condon, who asks, why quantum gravity? What does general relativity fail to account for in the cosmos? That we would need to seek an alternate explanation of gravity.
Great. Yeah, so that's a great question. And again, it comes down to there being certain situations where we just would not be able to answer the questions with the current models. So in terms of specific situations, so the Big Bang is something where if you just use general relativity, Einstein's theory of gravity, and you combine that with our theories of quantum matter, that can use that to understand what happens back further and further until just fractions of a second after the Big Bang. But somehow if you ever answer the question of what is the Big Bang, there's just no way that Einstein's theory has an answer for that. There's kind of mathematical singularity and infinity that you run into, and it's like you're getting out of service message when you try to apply it to that early time. Same thing happens when you want to understand what really happens when something collapses into a black hole. You can explain some features of that using the physical theories that we could have, but there are other questions where it's just impossible to even ask the question using the current theories. And so there are these questions that we can envision need to have something that unifies the two theories together. And so, there must be some larger framework that includes both of these things. So, that would be, I guess, the biggest motivation. It's not something that we need to find in our everyday life, but I think it's just our experience with physics is that all the physical phenomena we see, there seems to be some underlying mathematical framework that is describing all of that. And so, we don't have any reason to believe that would stop just because we're now asking complicated questions about gravity. That there should be some kind of underlying mathematical framework that we think should be able to answer all the questions about our universe.
And we're going to get to our last question for the session from our user Kasim Pereira, who asks, how much impact can this holographic universe description have on a philosophical idea like our universe actually being a simulation?
Yeah, so I think it really does have a lot of fascinating philosophical implications, and it's the analogy I gave earlier on with the virtual world and the computer chip, where the computer chip is sort of more real in that situation, at least from the perspective of our universe. The fact that we've done all this theoretical physics research and then come up with a picture that is almost just like that, almost just like something that you would have come up with in science fiction. It's really remarkable. It really makes you think about what is actually real. So certainly there are philosophical implications, and you might then start thinking, okay, well, is this hologram in our universe something in a different universe that someone has built or is controlling? But generally these things we would think about in our spare time. Somehow they don't necessarily feed into the actual mechanics of coming up with and testing these ideas.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Mark, thanks so much for being with us today.
Sure.
And so, viewers, thank you so much for joining us and listening in, and for your great questions. And you can come back and join us again on March 8th, where we'll be talking about our next program, computational creativity. So, bye-bye, have a good evening. Bye, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
Inside from the outside. Now take your oily bubble and fill the inside of it with lots and lots of positive charges. And now, if you zoom in, look at that memory, you'll see a difference in charge. There'll be much more positive on the inside, much more negative on the outside, simply because you've loaded up all those positive charges, and because they have charge, they can't get through that oily layers that are stuck. So now you're going to evolve things called channels. And channels are proteins, and they are exactly what they sound like. They're like little tubes that go through that oily layer and make a watery channel. And as soon as you have an opening like that, those potassium charges, all those potassiums that are charged, are going to just pour out of that cell, because there's so many more on the inside and so few on the outside. Now you close that channel, so you don't let those things out. And again, we're going to zoom in and look at that oily, bubbly plasma membrane layer. And what you can see is that it's positive on the outside and negative, positive on the inside, negative on the outside. And now what I want you to do is superimpose a battery. So now instead of having that little tunnel, I want you to just have a battery sticking through there. And if you think about what a battery is, it has a positive end and a negative end. And if you connect those two ends, electricity can flow. So you put a wire and you can have electricity flowing. Well, it's exactly the same thing in the plasma membrane. You open that channel and ions can flow, and that's a current. So that's electricity. So the way the body is creating electricity is by separating charges, by having cells that can build up in a lot of potassium on the inside and more than there is on the outside. So it's that process of separating charge, and it depends entirely on that oily container layer.
So that's a great foundation to get us started for this chat. So our next question is it possible to grow a human or mammal brain in the lab?
Okay, there's two possible ways to interpret that question. One is, can you take a brain out of a human or animal and stick it in a dish and keep it alive? And the other one is, can you start with cells that are kind of generic and cause them to create a brain in the dish? The answer to the first one is, I think, probably yes. It probably won't behave normally, but I think it's certainly possible to keep it alive, to create the right environment. Now, the other one, which is more interesting, and I think what the question is really about, is a little more difficult to answer. The short answer is, I personally cannot do that, no. But I think that one of the things that's important that we talked about actually at the World Science Festival is that while we're very good at taking cells and putting them in dishes and having them grow, we're very bad at having them grow into the correct shape. We really don't know how things like a brain, the brain starts out as the front end of a tube, and it kind of swells and it bulges and then it gets bigger and bigger and it starts to make folds. We don't know how to make cells do that. So in that sense, no, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we can force, if you will, or coax cells into making an actual brain, because I don't think we know yet even something as simple as how to make a brain shape. So my work and the work at the center has to do with trying to understand how these electrical signals might help us. Can we help us create the brain? Can we convince the cells or coax the cells or talk to the cells and tell them, you're going to be brain? Can you tell them, of course, you folks, develop, divide, proliferate, make all cells of a brain and come out the right shape? And we are hoping that, and we have some evidence, that these electrical signals are capable of sending that entire message. But we haven't gotten there yet. We're still much further back. Can we make it, make a blob versus make a sphere? We're still pretty much try to learn that language, learn the bioelectric language, so that we know how to send the signal to the cells that will trigger them, the fancy word is induce, that will induce them to make something that's the right shape as well as the right size and all the other things that you need to make an organ. So back to the short answer, no, we can't do that yet.
Maybe one day. So in our program, you mentioned something called optogenetics. Shape the different individual stem cells. So maybe you could start with just a quick overview of what optogenetics is.
So optogenetics is it's enormously cool. It's a technique that we borrowed from single-celled algae. Actually, some very smart people realized that in the single-celled algae there are these channels. So I talked before about channels and opening path crystalline layer, and there are channels in these blue-green algae that open and close depending on the color of light shining on them. So they're light-controlled pathways that can generate current. So what these very smart people did was they took the gene for those light-controlled channels, and they learned that you can stick them into pretty much any kind of cellular plant. And then what you've done is you've given yourself a tool that you can use to control whether those channels are open. So you can control whether there's a current. If there's current, the voltage dissipates. You can control all that simply by turning light on and off. It's enormously cool, enormously clever. And neuroscientists are doing fantastic things with these in brains. You can find this online. We have been trying to use those as a way to get the message across to the cells electrically what we want them to do. And of course, at this point, we're still figuring out, well, if we do this, what will they do? And then later on, we'll claim we learned how to control it, but really we just figured out what they do normally. So here we have this tool, and you can put them into pretty much any cell you want. DNA is very, very stable, and you can do things like when you ask another lab for the gene for something, they literally take it and they put the DNA on a piece of paper and they stick that piece of paper in the mail to you. And it comes in the mail and you open it up and you have your DNA in fast form. So there's a number of different ways, but basically you can get it into cells in a variety of ways. And once those cells have those channels, those light activated channels present, then we can control the voltage by turning on and off the lights. So the question is, can you use a technique like that? Can we put those light activated channels into stem cells and use light to induce them to become one particular type of cell versus another particular type of cell? I believe I got the question right.
Yeah, we could shape individual stem cells using this technology.
Okay, so the other thing, for those of you who don't know, stem cells are very special cells that stay kind of less developed than other cells in your body. So your muscles, for example, have muscle stem cells, and they're all distributed throughout your muscles, but they're not muscles, they're pre-muscles. And if you have damage to a muscle, what happens is the stem cell starts to divide and make more and more of itself. And some of those cells in order for the body to then accept that being transplanted into it. And you don't want the immune system to reject the organ we have a way to go, excuse me, figuring out how to make that happen. So do we have to seed these scaffolds with cells that come from the patient? Or can we make cells that will not express or not put onto their surfaces the proteins that will trigger the immune response? That's one thing we have to think about. Another thing is that organs, you can't just put an organ in and expect it will work. It has to have a blood circulatory system. It has to have nerves come into it to make it work. It has to become integrated in very profound ways with the body where it has been put. I know people are trying to learn how to do that. I don't believe that's been successful yet. One approach is to and people are working on doing that. And how can you make that happen? The second thing I want to say about that is that as cool as that is, and it feels really cool, I think there's probably a better way to go, and that is to do it inside the person's body. So rather than create the whole thing outside and then try to make it fit in the right place, go in and learn how to. So say for example, a kneecap, you're trying to make a kneecap. You can make it outside and put all the sticks into it and put it in, or you can go into the person's leg and that is sort of the kind of thing that I do with frogs, where I say you cut off the tail of a frog and you make it pump ions out, so you open up all these channels and pump the ions out. So like how what will happen is the tail will regenerate all on its own, and it'll come out the right shape, and it comes out with all the right tissues, and it stops at the right time, and it's all integrated, its nervous system is integrated, its circulatory system is integrated. It's a way of triggering the body to regenerate itself rather than trying to create something outside and ask the body to accept it. So these tissue printing processes do expect will become used very soon. And not exactly regeneration, they are making an organ and it's taking it and asking it to be accepted. So it's doing it as well. I think that what's really exciting is that these electrical signals seem to be like a master switch. If you change another electrical signal, everything happens afterwards and all the regulation gets turned on. So I think that that's going to be good. Because it will come out the right shape and it will come out integrated and you'll get all the different cell types you need and your stem cells will do the right things. So that's my dream of how regenerative medicine is going.
That topic, I think, came towards the very end of our program. The question comes from Darkia123, who asks, is it really possible to bring back a species like Jurassic Park, or is that just complete fiction?
No, absolutely possible. It depends. So I was saying before that DNA is very, very stable. And which is why if you can find a blood sample, for example, in a mosquito that's been preserved in amber, you actually can get the DNA out of it. What you don't get is all of the DNA perfectly preserved. So, for example, with the woolly mammoth, we have some of the DNA, and what they do is actually you incorporate that mammoth DNA into elephant DNA, a very, very close relative, or even a descendant, but something that's evolutionarily very close. And you kind of cross figures, and you hope that whatever didn't come with the mammoth DNA, the elephant DNA will supply, and you hope that whatever is different, whatever made the mammoth different from the elephant, is represented in the DNA that you found in the mosquito. And that's actually how they're going about trying to do that. So it requires having a closely related species that you can then, you do your molecular biology magic and you put it into the egg, and then you let an elephant gestate and carry it to term. And you keep your fingers crossed, but absolutely it's possible.
Well, I look forward to my pet velociraptor. So our next question is from Ark Mullen. Besides organs and limbs, would it be possible to grow back teeth or hair?
That is actually an active area of research. Dentistry is often kind of ahead of the curve as far as trying these new things. And in fact, Harvard Dental School is at this very moment advertising for a researcher who's interested in regeneration of teeth and jaw and bone and all. So yes, again, absolutely, as long as we can create the right environment and we can see the cells regenerate, pretend you're developing a jaw for the first time. And we hope that what will happen is that the jaw will regenerate, and part of it you'll get the little test buds, 3 teeth grow from these little test buds. And if we can figure out the right message, then absolutely, future
縮小があるらしい。
for sure.
Our next question comes from D4V35, who asks, is there any representation of developmental biology in movies or fiction that's a particular pet peeve of yours, and how it's just completely impossible?
I'm trying to think. So there's a movie coming to mind. It was Jeff Bridges. It was called Starman. I do answer that one. It's Starman, and he goes through all the steps of development in about 5 minutes. He comes in as an alien, and he finds a book of photographs, and so he able to instantly figure out that the baby comes first, and then the toddler, and so he turns himself into a baby, and then he gradually grows to toddler to human to whatever. I think that the shapeshifting goes straight to human. It's with the right number and have them exactly the right shape, there's still this problem of getting them to be integrated with the rest of the brain, getting them working to so that that will happen. So again, I think that eventually what we're going to want to do, the real end goal should be learning how to do that inside a brain. Go in there and either put the DNA for these optogenetic channels, or we're learning more about the genetics of how to make a cell become a stem cell, become a particular neuron. If we can figure out how to go in and grab the cells that are already there, regenerate on their own, I think that's going to be the cleanest way to do it. You don't have to deal with any problems. You don't have to deal with shape. You don't have to deal with all these things. You just give the message, do this. So I think that's going to be here. But the short answer is yes, I'm sure we'll be able to do that. I know we can do that.
And are there chaos? If we're going to do biomechanical things, for example, in theory, could you grow the biological thing that works like a car? A car is very, it's like a simpler machine. So I'm going to treat that question as, can we grow a biological machine? What I'll tell you is that has also already been done. So there are these, there's a group at MIT, it's called the GBEX, and part of that group has made these, they're using human cells, or they're human animal cells, and so they're actually using the cells to generate force. They take, so there's a beautiful there. Go ahead and look online for there's a jellyfish, and it moves like a jellyfish, and it's just a piece of something rubbery that has muscle cells growing on it, and those muscle cells are coordinated and working together, and they actually get, it really does move like a jellyfish. So from there to having something entirely cellular or biological, I think it's not far leap. But that's another really interesting idea that people are actually pursuing already. So it sounds like the scientists are way ahead of us.
What they've done.
So this question comes from Greg Stewart, who asks, do you think it's worthwhile to keep DNA from a version of yourself, like your hair clipping, in the hope of future being able to
I think probably most of you know that the blood that's found in the umbilical cord is considered very yummy and young and full of lovely things, and there are cord blood banks. So again, this is something that people think this could be potentially really useful. One of the things about aging and senescence has to do with what happens to the DNA. I think that's probably where this question comes from. And one of the things is that when DNA is replicating itself, so your cells are getting ready to divide, so you have to double the amount of DNA, you have to copy all of your chromosomes. Because of the structure of the molecule, of the DNA molecule, it actually gets a little shorter at the end every time it gets replicated. So over maybe, I think it's something like 80 times maybe that any individual DNA molecule that's replicated in your body is getting shorter and shorter. And the little pieces that are getting cut off are called telomeres. Telomere just means end, and mere means so the telomeres are getting shorter as you get older. So one idea is if you save young DNA, if you save the young DNA that has long telomeres, maybe we could use that to replace these cells as they get older. I think it's certainly worthwhile saving some baby hair. Teeth is another good thing to save. Teeth always have lots of interesting cells in them. I don't know if we have learned actually how to use those young cells as some kind of template to fix our older cells. It's not my field. I don't know. It's a nice idea, and I expect someone is thinking about it. And it theoretically is possible. It might be better to save entire cells rather than just DNA, because it's easier to replace old cells with young cells than it is to replace old DNA with young DNA.
So our next question is from Out of Outer Space, who asks, how similar or different is the growth pattern of a frog leg to a human leg? Do they grow in the same way during
Yes, they do. So they're, I believe you're talking about the log bones, and indeed they do in the same way, which is why Dr. Sinifin and which I'm saying my lab just here in town, is using frog legs and to figure out how to talk to them and tell them to regenerate. And we can, it's really simple to extrapolate and make predictions about human because they do indeed grow in the same way.
Old 55 Yacht asks, living forever sounds amazing, but does our brain have the capacity to cope with this experience?
Well, that, on a psychological level, I would guess no. I will tell you that what through my head is my resource is the Anne Rice Vampire books. Thinking about the difficulty of living forever. And, we're programmed to die may not be the right way to put it, but it's certainly in our makeup that we will not live forever. And so whether our brains are capable of dealing with not being afraid of death, I think that's another field certainly above my head. I will say that humans who live longer no particular trouble relative to people who live shorter amounts of time. So there's certainly some plasticity in our ability to deal with life of a given length. So we might be able to push ourselves. I think it would be very different because I think knowing we die is knowing we're going to die, whether we believe it or not. I think that is an interesting part of being human. So I think that if that wasn't there, I think it would be very, very different. I think the biggest delay will certainly be getting permission to try it. I would love to say 25 years because I'll probably still be alive then, but I would guess that it's going to be more like 50. I don't think this generation, my generation, think that these electrical approaches, these bioelectrical approaches, are going to be easier to translate, so easier to put into a clinic than other things, because we already have so many medicines and we know so many chemicals because of psychiatry and because of gastroenterology. So we already have mechanisms for changing the electrical situation. They're already approved for use in humans. So making the tadpole tail regenerate required just having it pump some hydrogen ions out. Well, we have all sorts of drugs that can make it happen. Actually, we have drugs that will stop that from happening. So if you've ever taken Prilosec or any of the PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, those are drugs that what they're doing is they're changing the currents that are coming out of the cells in your stomach. They're stopping the hydrogen currents. They're closing the channels. They're turning off the pumps. So we have all of these drugs already. And if it turns out it is as simple as, change the voltage across the membrane, change the distribution of potassium ions on the inside relative to the outside, we're very close to being able to do that without having to So I think I'm probably overly optimistic, but I think it will be faster than, for example, gene therapy, because we know so little about what happens when you put in a new gene and you change the genetic makeup of the cells. And some of the gene therapy trials have not worked at all. So but we already know what happens when you take Prilosec. So.
We've got time for just a few more questions. This one comes from Captain Falcon Almighty. Do you think that genetic research in humans will eventually go from mostly medicine and disease to altering humans?
On some level, medicine is altering humans. But I have a lot of faith in scientists. I don't think that we're going to find it, that suddenly everybody's going to be giving birth to superhuman babies. I don't think that scientists are interested in that. I don't think most humans are interested in that. I think that, there's very funny movies. Here's something that drives me crazy about movies, is that a lot of scientists are portrayed as having very odd motivations. Scientists really aren't paid very much. There's rarely a financial incentive to learn, where most of us are motivated by curiosity and just how cool it is. I mean, how cool is that? I made a tail regenerate by shining a light on it. I mean, it's a very different motivation from the motivations that you find in literature or movies. So I'd be very surprised if some mad scientist was born who wanted to change humans genetically. The other reason I don't think it's really likely is because to change a human, you either have to get to the egg where you can put in a new gene, or you have to find a way to deliver a gene to every single one of the 10 to the 23 cells in the human body, and you can't do it. There's just no way to do it. People are looking at viruses, because that's what viruses are very good at. Viruses attack your body and they put their DNA into your cells. But you would need quite an army of viruses to actually change enough of the cells to change an already hatched or an already born person. So I think it's much more likely that using it for therapy, for medicine, that's what's coming down the pipe. I don't think people are looking into trying to create humans with superpowers or even just something nice. I would look at a tail or wings. I don't think that's So for people who don't know, extremophiles are animals that live in what we consider to be very extreme environments. So the animals that live at the vents at the bottom of the ocean where it's incredibly hot, or there are bacteria that live in hot springs, and tardigrades are wonderful. They live in moss and soil and stuff, and they can completely dry out and be fine. And as soon as they get wet again, they just pop back. They become reanimated by water. And I absolutely think that we have a lot to learn from that. Not necessarily because we want to create humans that can be completely dried out and then come back to life, but because of what they have to teach us, or there's definitely clever things going on there that allow that to happen. The presence of water is basically the fundamental thing we need for life. So to be ability to dry out and hold on to just enough water that you can come back, that's a really interesting and potentially useful belief. So if we study those things, maybe we can learn something about, not necessarily something that humans turn to, but maybe we can learn something that we can use to help humans in another situation. So I think one of the things I'm sorry about science education, in order to understand why looking at things other than humans is useful for humans. You can learn things about humans, but you can also learn new things that we can then use in further research. But also that we can learn, how to do these new things and deal with extreme environments. Tardigrades are probably going to tell us a lot about how to go into space and live in space for a long time. There is a bacterium that was found in hot springs, and we use it now. What we learned from it was how to replicate DNA at high temperatures. So our DNA, if you take our DNA and you heat it up too high, the two strands of it's going to fall apart and you kind of kill it. But there are these bugs, these bacteria that live in hot vents that can replicate the DNA at very high temperatures. And Carrie Mullins, who invented PCR, which is it's like having a pH meter. Everybody has a PCR machine. It's for replicating lots and lots and lots of copies of DNA that you're studying. And they can do it now in the lab because they learned how that bacteria does it. We actually borrow the gene from that bacteria. So studying extremophiles gives us information that we can use. And so it's very, very important, even